Yo, good people. It's your homie Herbman busting you back upside the head with another hot banger boogie. Hey, look, go tell somebody your homie Herbman is on. And if you're new to this platform, welcome. Go ahead and hit that logo right at the bottom of your screen and hit that notification bell so that you never miss what we bring to the platform. And remember, guys, it is free to like, share, and subscribe. All right, now what are we talking about today? I first want to start off by warning you guys about what you hear and what you see. Okay, a lot of stuff is a facade, and you have to do your due diligence to know who is real, who really cares. Okay, who really cares, and then who just wants your money. You have to know that. You have to have some way of discerning who is there for you and who is not. Fortunately for me and people like me, we don't make money solely from social media. So there's not a demand for you to, for me to have to say things and put things out so that I can earn a living, because I do not earn a living from the platforms. Okay. I actually don't even earn a living from the products that I sell. Okay. Because I don't want to give you anything false out of desperation of my own preservation. So I separate what I love to do with what I have to do. Now, obviously, some things are, not free, and you do have to pay for things that you want. Okay. But again, you have to be the discerning person to understand who is actually there for you, who really cares, who is doing a mission, and who is out for money. Okay. That's what you got to understand. And that's with everything across the board. That's with your political figures. That's with your careers, your jobs. That's with you have to be discerning to know exactly where you need to be and who you need to follow and be under, or who you need to lead. But you have to know who, and you got to know what and why. All right. And so what we're talking about today, from my teachings and from my research that I've done, we're talking about metabolism and focusing on the connection between metabolism and disease. Now, I know that you guys love Dr. Sebi, and you heard him say mucus was the origin of disease. And Dr. Sebi, that was not anything new. He got that from one of his mentors, Arnold Ehret, which told us about mucus being the cause of disease. And Arnold Ehret wasn't the first one. He was also around a body of men back in that time that were deciphering between whether it was called mucus or whether it was called acid. So the guy who said acid, he was talking about the same thing, but it was shown as a difference. Okay. But mucus, acid, all of it is the same thing. Okay. It's all the same thing. And so what we got to understand is that the research and the development of the education and the development of really how we go about obtaining health is still an everyday learning process. It nothing dies with Arnold Ehret, nothing dies with Dr. Sebi. We take up those cloaks as laymen and laywomen, and we continue to push the envelope. We continue to show our people, regardless of color, just humans. These are my people. We continue to show our people how we can develop. All right. How we can really learn how to take care of ourselves and not rely on entities and institutions to do it. Okay. So from my perspective, metabolism is a direct connection with disease. Now, what is metabolism before we even get to the board? Metabolism simply has to do with any and everything that that is attributing or contributing to you being alive. Your metabolism is everything. It's a biochemical process that breaks down and build up for the functionality of the human body. So when you eat foods, your catabolic action of your metabolism takes precedence, and it begins to break down your foods into smaller particles that the cells could use. and it releases this energy, okay, to the anabolic action that comes next. And this anabolic action uses those small particles to build up the cells and build up the body in the way that it should be done. Okay. And so what I want to do is first get you to understanding of metabolism, and then we want to walk this thing back to what may be the issue so that you can see that all my videos and all the stuff that we've been talking about here on the Herbman show, it's all coming to a head. It's all a melting pot of information, and we can put it all together. It's one of the reasons why I learned Ayurvedic medicine. It's one of the reasons why I learned traditional Chinese medicine. It's one of the reasons why I continue to learn Western herbalism and ultimately traditional African medicine. All right. And so we put all that together because it's really just all about humans trying to figure out how to live a long and prosperous life. Okay. And so we can utilize all that information. It may help every one of us. Okay. So you got your metabolism there. Okay. So we backtrack to understand what regulates our metabolism. Okay. So metabolism is here. All right. And this metabolism needs to be a balance, right? It needs to have homeostasis. Okay. If you have a slow burning metabolism, then you may be considered one of those people who would be heavy set or obese. If you have a fast burning metabolism, you may be a lot less obese. You may be a lot thinner. Okay. You may have more muscle than fat in your body. Okay. And so these are some of the body types that you can kind of see. If you've known anybody that can eat anything and don't gain weight, they have a fast metabolism. If you've known some people that can eat a little something and gain 10 pounds, then they have a slow metabolism. Okay. So what we want to do is stay out of the slow metabolic state. We want to stay out of that. Okay. And we want to make sure that we're eating high energy foods and high fiber foods. And a lot of times those are one and the same. High energy foods and high fiber foods. And these foods are going to be what? Your legumes, your beans, your nuts, your seeds, your whole grains. Okay. These and your vegetables and your fruits and all that old vegetarian meal is a great way to balance out one's metabolism. Now, how is the metabolism regulated? By hormones. Okay. And these hormones come from all sorts of places in our body. But one of the main areas it comes from is the endocrine system, okay? The endocrine system. Now, what are some of the glands in the endocrine system? You have the pituitary gland, the pineal, the hypothalamus, the parathyroid. You have the adrenal glands. You have your gonads, which are your testes in men, ovaries in women. You also have the thyroid, and then you have the pancreas. And all of these are connected to the endocrine system. All right. And this is kind of your hormone system. These glands, they secrete hormones into the bloodstream to get it to the tissues and the organs that it needs to keep us in proper functionality. Okay. Um, and then before the endocrine system, everything happens in the central nervous system, aka the brain. Okay. The brain sends signals, all right, to the glands to secrete the hormones to the areas that are needed for you to feel, act, and be a certain type of way. These hormones are very important to our livelihood. That we're not just talking about sex hormones, but we're talking about hormones that allow you to sleep. All right, so when you're talking about the pituitary gland, you're talking about where growth hormones and the oxytocin is sitting at. Okay, growth hormones. All right, if you're talking about the pineal gland, that's where your melatonin is at. Okay, the melatonin, Rick. That's where your body clock and being able to sleep and serotonin and all of that is all connected, okay? When you're talking about the hypothalamus, you're talking about oxytocin. The parathyroid has PTH, which is parathyroid hormone. The adrenal glands carry your corticosteroids and the adrenaline or epinephrine. Your gonads for men is testosterone. For women, it's estrogen and progesterone. All right. For your thyroid, for your pancreas is going to be insulin, and for your thyroid is going to be thyroxine. Okay, thyroxine, and actually, the thyroid and thyroxine, the T3s and the T4s, are actually the messengers directly connected to your metabolism, okay? But because this hormonal system is connected to every single part of our bodies, we want to cover all of these, okay? And so how is it that metabolism is connected to disease? How is that even possible? We hear what you're saying, man. We see your board. We understand that these are the organs of the endocrine system, and these are the hormones that these organs produce, and these are the hormones with plenty other more that will allow us to be in homeostasis, balance, right? And also too will allow us to burn off what we take into our bodies, okay? So now, what is the caveat? What happens in this process that makes this goes from what it's supposed to do to the end result here, which is disease? What happens? Why does metabolism issues break down into being obese, which breaks down into being to all these other things: high blood pressure, high cholesterol, having high blood triglycerides, which is high blood fat, okay, diabetes, cancers, heart disease, reproductive issues, neurodevelopment. How is it that metabolism equals these things? What's the number one killer in our community, our population? Heart disease, all right, cancer, all right, diabetes. And this is the vehicle that all of these things ride on: obesity. This is what's happening to us. So you have what is called endocrine disruptors. They are called endocrine disruptors. Okay. How do you get these endocrine disruptors in your system, and how do they disrupt this process? Well, simply by mimicking the hormones. They mimic your hormones. Mimic means that they are not real. They are false signals, false messengers, false prophets within your body that is telling your body to do things that it is not supposed to do. That is telling your body to not shut off when it's supposed to shut off, to shut on when it's supposed to stay off. It is just screwing up the body. Again, these can all still be attributed to autoimmune diseases and just so forth and so on. This thing begins to just compile when you're talking about the effects of a mimic in our bodies that is telling us to grow in places that we don't need to grow, sleep at a time that we don't need to sleep. You know what I mean? Have our bodies all up in a fight or flight state when there's nothing really wrong, right? Having us in high stressful situations, that's the corticosteroids, all right? Prostate issues with our gonads, we're having PCOS and all these types of issues, menopausal, postmenopausal issues, all because of messengers being mimicked in the reproductive area. And then you have the biggest issue, which is the insulin resistance, right? That is happening within our bodies because every time we eat something, our blood sugar levels are going to go up. Okay? Every time you eat something, your blood sugar levels are going to go up. And every time you miss a meal, your blood sugar levels are going to dip down. Either way, whichever one you do, insulin becomes a very big part of that. Okay? When you eat something, insulin comes out and it begins to put this food in its proper places, take it to the cells. Okay? When you miss a meal, okay, that's telling your body, hey, we need some energy. Because he ain't eating, so we need some energy. So then insulin goes to your storage, all right, to your storage containers, and they go get the energy that was stored in your fat, in your liver, okay, in all these particular areas so that you can get some energy. Now, I want you to get this because this is not the biggest point, but I want you to understand something. What I just said right there, two things happen. When you have enough sugar in your blood, all right, when you have enough, then you're just basically taking from the fat. When you don't have enough, when you miss a meal and all that type of stuff, then that's when it begins to take from the muscle. Okay, so understand that, because that's a very, very big caveat about what we're talking about, so that you can understand exactly what you need to be doing. So what foods should we be eating here? This is low glycemic foods. Okay, low glycemic foods, which is again the same foods that we're talking about: high energy, high fiber foods. Okay, so these disruptors get into our water supply, our food supply, some of our food, our beverage packaging. It gets into our soil. It gets into our environment, and then enters us through our skin. Okay, and these are all coming from industrialized issues that we're having when we're talking about the plastics that we're making, the cosmetics that we're making, the fragrances that we're making. We're talking about the textile coatings that we're making, the flame retardant material that we're making, the firefighting foams that we're making. All of these things have high level of chemicals that we call endocrine disruptors. Those chemicals, BPA, okay, that's in our water bottles and all that type of stuff. You got to watch all of that stuff. You got to watch all of it. If I tell you that the enemy is coming into you via the air, the food, the water, and the skin, you have to protect those four things, people. You have to protect yourself. The enemy is attacking you via the air you breathe, the food you eat, the water you drink, and is also coming into you via your skin, which means that it is all around you. Why? Because you are constantly manufacturing and producing chemicals that are highly toxic. You're talking about dioxins and all these things. And what is happening with these chemicals is when it's getting into us, it is mimicking our hormonal issues. And so that's why we're all hormonally imbalanced. And we're also all hormonal. We're all out of whack. And we don't know why. And I'm here to tell you that a lot of it is contributed to your diet and into the environment that we're living in. Diet and the environment that we're living in. And you cannot really run from it. You have to fight for it. From a consumer standpoint, you're going to have to fight for how you want your food to be grown and packaged. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to understand that shampooing your hair with chemicals you cannot pronounce is harmful to your health. Putting deodorant under your arms with chemicals that you cannot pronounce is going to be harmful to your health. Drinking things and eating things that you cannot pronounce are going to be harmful to your health. And not from the whole big picture of, oh, this old crazy, this. It slowly breaks you down. It slowly breaks you down. If I have a mimic in my body that's telling something to grow that shouldn't grow, that is the beginning of cancer. That is the beginning of cancer. If my insulin won't shut off because I'm missing meals or eating too much meal, right? Diabetes, okay? If you are mimicking my testosterone and estrogen levels and you're putting them down or too high, I have reproductive issues. You're mimicking me. You're coming into me as an alien, and you're almost like the invasion of the body snatchers, or actually the movie Mimic. You guys can go watch that. For the thyroid, you're producing thyroxine and all this type of stuff, but then you're not really understanding why you're hypo or hyper active in that area, because your messengers are thrown off, your hormones are thrown off. Right? And then what we start doing is, because these things are mimicking stuff, it won't shut off stuff that's supposed to be shut off. You overeat because you don't feel full, because the hormone hasn't said, hey, you're full, stop. So you continue to overconsume, which now begins the precipice of all disease, which is obesity. And now you have high cholesterol issues. You're not as mobile as you once was, so now you're not exercising, right? So now your oxygen levels is plummeting. All right. And so now when you have this, you have probably high blood pressure issues. All right. You're probably now on the onset of some cardiovascular issues dealing with your arteries and things of that nature. Um, a lot of times when you're off track with your metabolism, you probably have either low cholesterol or high cholesterol. Okay, that's going to attribute to there. All right. Now, when we're talking about the brain development, which is a very important thing, why? Because if these get mimicked, the pituitary, the pineal, and the hypothalamus, you up in here. You up in here telling me that I don't know when to sleep. My body clock is off. I don't know what time of the day it is. I don't understand. I can't go to sleep at night. A lot of us are dealing with these things, and we understand them to be some hormonal issues, but we don't know how they're affecting our metabolism, which then leads to these things. So, hey, look, man, y'all know me. Y'all know me. I didn't want to make this video long, but I definitely needed to make it strong. I love you guys, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about that. Nothing. I'm going to keep on busting you upside the head with this truth in any form or fashion that I can. If you guys need help, consultations, if you guys really, really want to self-heal, holla at your boy. Love Herbman. Peace. Yes, sir.